OU 2020.
Hello everyone, my name is Candace Thompson and I'm all in OU 2020.
My name is Miriam Battles and I'm all in for OU 2020.
Hi, my name is Tammy and I'm all in OU 2020.
My name is Pastor Ruggles and I'm all in OU 2020.
Hi, I'm Vivian English Washington.
And I'm Mark Washington.
And we're all in for OU 2020.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emo Parker, and I'm all in OU 2020.
Hi, I'm Sherry Wilson, and I am all in for my alma mater, Oakwood University. We're asking you to join us in the mission of Oakwood University and to support students.
I'm Leslie Pollard, and I'm all in with OU 2020. OU 2020 is your opportunity to do something that can make a difference in the lives of students. I'm standing here by the bell tower. For almost 70 years, this has been an iconic symbol of students in partnership with the alumni in making life better for all of our students. So go all in. OU 2020, give today, and you can make a difference in the life of a student. Welcome back to Oakwood Praise, and we are talking about the topic of grief and seeking insight from Mr. John Ruffin, who is one of our professional counselors here in our health and counseling services at Oakwood University. John, I have a question for you. How do I know when I am grieving? That's the first question. And then the second question, before we turn to the Bible, is do I ever get over it? Is there a time, sometimes, especially men, hey, bruh, suck it up, all that kind of thing. Do I ever get over grieving?
So those are two great questions. So the first question, how do I know when I'm grieving? There's three responses that you want to look for. Your physiological response, your emotional response, and then you want to also look at your cognitive response. So could
you unpack each
I'm
one of those?
I'm going to unpack, and then you will realize that a lot of people are grieving, and a lot of dysfunction you see is due to grief.
Wow. More
than you will think initially. So when we look at our physiological response during the time of high impact, a high impact experience of grief, you're going to have what we call the fight or flight syndrome. So what happens here is, depending on your makeup, you're going to either fight or you're going to go into flight. Now, either one produces, your body physiologically produces hormones. And these hormones are going to speed you up or slow you down. So in a person that is sped up, you're going to see their muscles get tense. They get agitated, fidgety. They may have panic attacks, heavy breathing, sweating. You're gonna see a physiological response. In slowing down, you may see a person go numb, disconnect.
Wow.
They don't have the energy to even engage. Now, once again, this is your body's defense mechanism to prepare for what it considers crisis or danger. And so your body is going to naturally do this in the beginning. So that's one of the first signs. If someone has experienced loss and you see them physically either getting tensed or becoming disconnected, that's a good sign that they're going through the grieving process.
Okay.
Emotionally, emotions become more intense. So if a person is sad, it becomes, major depression. They can't talk. They're thinking about death. They're thinking about why they're here, and so forth. And or if they are angry, it becomes explosive. Or if they're nervous, they become panicky. It heightens their emotions. So once again, close to an experience of loss, if you see these signs, know that they're starting the grieving process.
A friend of mine, to illustrate, I guess, your point, a friend of mine said to me one day, he read a biography of Dr. Martin Luther King, and they said they could tell when Dr. King was sad because he preached about death.
Yes. Yes.
In every sermon where they say he was sad, we preached about, been to the mountaintop, he would speak about death.
That's right. And that usually probably comes with a sense of loss.
A sense of loss. And of course, in his case, the pressure.
Yes.
Of expectation and success and all those things.
Sure.
So you said to us, physiologically, we begin to see differences, emotionally and psychologically?
Emotionally.
Cognitively.
And cognitive.
Cognitively.
So cognitive, what happens is this is that how you look at the world scenario now. Maybe you look at, you had a death, so I'm not going to get close to anybody, so I'm going to be mean to everyone. I'm going to cut everybody out. You start dialoguing with yourself and coming up with your own truths about life and what you perceive life to be. And that can be dysfunctional in that arena because you're going off of the emotions of this high intense emotion. And so you have to be aware when people are talking about, I'm not going to let anyone hurt me. I'm not going to let anyone in.
We've all heard this.
Yes.
That'll never happen to me again.
That's right.
I'm never going to let anybody do that to me again.
That's all due to loss. That's the part of that's a part of the grieving process. Now, you asked the second question, I think is really important, and it's a good fit to this one.
Okay.
And that question was,
do I ever get over it?
Do I ever get over it?
Do I ever get over grieving?
I like to tell a quick story. I lost my grandmother in 2005. And she was a matriarch of our family. She was a praying woman. Everyone turned to her for guidance. And even at first, it was sad and difficult. But I moved on. I was able to continue life and so forth. But I knew I was still in the grieving process. This is how I knew. Every once in a while, I would find myself calling her phone, her phone line.
To hear her voice?
Well, this is like 2-3 years after she passed.
Oh, my.
But guess what? Because people were still grieving in my family, they kept that phone line going. Imagine every month someone paying a bill to a phone that was not used and no one changed their answering
Because they
machine.
needed to hear her voice.
Exactly. I thought it was just me until I thought about it. But up until about 3 years after she passed, I would find myself every once in a while, without thinking, dialing her number, and as soon as I hear her voice, break down and cry.
Oh, my. Some of us have done that. When my mother passed, I would sometimes read her letters afterwards. Yeah. And if I start talking about it too much, I'd tear up. I would read her letters, because she was a great letter writer.
Yes.
And I'd read her letters.
Yes.
So these are ways that we cope with grief.
Exactly. So there's stages that we go that have been identified as stages that need to be processed in order to, with the words you said, get over grief.
Yeah, people say that, especially to men. They come on, dude, suck it up. Be a man up, you know, all of those kinds of things, right?
Sure. So those stages are, you have the denial stage. And denial is not saying, oh, this person didn't pass or they're no longer there. It's not being able to fully accept that they're not there.
You can accept that they've died, but not fully come to grips with the fact that they're not here anymore.
Exactly.
Mother, grandmother is just not here anymore.
So people come up with things, and this is very political, but people will say, they're still with me. They're looking over me.
Sure, absolutely.
Because that is their way of coping and not really letting go. Now, it's important to note that in these stages, there's no set order, nor do we always go through all of them. But it is assumed that if you do process through all of them, you have a likelihood of being healthier. So you have denial, you have anger, you have a stage called bargaining with God, with yourself.
If you mother's sick, if you let her live, I'm going to live right.
That's right.
She's been telling me about my life, and now she has cancer and she's on her sick bed. If you let her live, I will live right. I'm bargaining.
Yes.
Am I bargaining?
Well, that's bargaining during the fact.
During the fact.
But here's an example of after fact. God, you stay over there and I'll stay over here.
Ooh, really?
You leave me alone so I don't have to deal with that. Because if I'm near you, you're going to make me deal with it. So you stay over there, I'll stay over here, and we don't have to worry about it.
Wow. And that's bargaining?
That's bargaining.
What is the bargain? We agree.
I don't want to deal with the pain.
I don't want to deal with the pain?
I know how to deal with the pain. See, you might want me to process the pain. I don't want to process it. I know how to deal.
Okay.
I know how to deal. I'll leave you alone. You leave me alone so I don't have to deal with the pain. Then you have a stage of depression. That's like really a good stage in this framework, because you're starting to recognize the truth. Your body is starting to accept, and it's starting to relax its defense mechanisms so you can accept the truth. But it does come with some pain.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But that is usually associated with acceptance.
Okay.
Because acceptance is one of the next stages. You accept that, okay, here it is. Now, I'll tell you how it plays out in a beautiful way with my grandmother. So 3 years into it, I'm still calling her, bawling every time I hear her voice.
Wow.
And I said to myself, I had this conversation. This hurts. What am I going to do? And someone suggested to me, they asked questions that really helped me. They said, who was your grandmother to you? And I started to explain who she was. And And in that process, I realized that the one way I connected with my grandmother was through her feeding the homeless. And so they said, in memory of her,
why don't you
go feed the homeless? And I did. And it brought so much healing
and comfort
and connection. And every once in a while, about once a year, I go do that in remembering who she was to me. And it helps me to be able to cope.
Amen. Amen.
And I don't know what our time frame is, but that brings us into the biblical.
We've got a couple of minutes left here, but we can start and then we'll pick it up in our next broadcast.
Sure. And that goes into our biblical character that I wanted to present.
Okay.
Which is probably the Bible's most famous person who went through grief, which was Job.
Yes.
I mean, imagine the loss. Not only did he lose his children, his property, his livelihood, his wife, his health. I mean, if there was anyone to have lost, it was him. You know, and it's funny that was the test that the enemy used, because the enemy was saying with loss, people will feel defeated.
And it's on that note that we will come back in the next broadcast, because the character of Job gives us some pathways on how to manage our grief. We'd like to thank you for tuning in with us this week, and we're going to pick this up next week as Mr. Ruffin continues to talk to us on the subject of grief and providing us resources and insights that can help us successfully navigate the challenges that we face and the losses that we experience. May God bless you. This has been Oakwood Praise, and we look forward to seeing you next week.